English, have you got some good news for Liz Truss?
Unfortunately, from the Prime Minister's perspective, absolutely not. We don't have any good news. In fact, we have possibly some quite terrible news. In fact, what we've found is, according to our latest favourability figures, so that's the proportion of people when asked, do you have a favourable or unfavourable opinion of this person, that say favourable minus saying unfavourable. Liz Truss now sits already at minus 59. Three quarters, sorry, of the public have an unfavourable opinion of her. Now, to put that in perspective, Boris Johnson's worst ever score was minus 53. Jeremy Corbyn's worst ever score was minus 55. So Liz Truss is already more unpopular than Boris Johnson or Jeremy Corbyn ever were.
So that would also tell us that no one's ever come back from being this bad.
Yes, quite. So, of
in
course,
recent
both
times.
Politicians, yes, they became incredibly unfavourable. They fell out of favour with the public, and that was irreversible for them. What we tend to see in these situations is when the public make up their mind about somebody, it's incredibly difficult, incredibly unlikely that they will sort of change their mind on that person, at least over the short to medium term. Longer term, people tend to look back sort of historically and nostalgically with a little bit more of a positive view on leaders in this situation. But it's very, very, very difficult to turn around an opinion that's held so strongly as this. This is three quarters of the public already now saying that they have an unfavourable opinion of the Prime Minister. And if we look as well at some other politicians in the Conservative Party, Kwasi Kwarteng, he's at minus 54 already. So again, he's down at the Johnson Corbyn levels too. So wherever you look, this is terrible news for the government.
And I was looking, it's not just very bad now, but the fact that it's in the space of a week, Liz Truss's net favourability has gone from minus 30 to basically minus 60.
Yes, exactly.
That strikes me as, I mean, just that degree of movement, never mind the overall numbers, but that, I mean, it's almost a vertical line on your graph.
It is, yes. It certainly is something that in my time working for YouGov and paying sort of attention to all this, I've never seen anything like this before. Indeed, we went from, of course, the last week a sort of 10-point lead to a 17-point Labour lead to a 33-point Labour lead. This really has been quite dramatic, and it really has been fueled by that reception to the very terrible public reception to that mini budget that was viewed as unfair, having the wrong priorities. And despite there being some popular policies in there, such as reversing the rise in national insurance, bringing down the income tax rate, it was just overshadowed by the bankers' bonuses, overshadowed by the 45p tax rate. And even though the U-turn that was conducted on that tax rate was popular, was well received, the public just haven't forgiven Liz Truss for trying to sort of put that through in the first place. And they've made up their minds on her, as we've seen on the work card, as we're seeing in this polling. And their verdict is damning, unfortunately, for the Prime Minister.
And what about the interaction between, we quite often talk about the interaction between leader and party, and sometimes Boris Johnson, I think, quite often outpolls the Conservatives in that people's favourability towards him was better than the party.
Yes.
What's happening with Liz Truss? Is she doing that, or is she sort of a drag on the party?
Yes, quite. It's the reverse. We're finding that already Liz Truss is a drag on the brand of the Conservative Party, which is a giant red flag in terms of her prospects of sort of electability and sort of the Conservative Party looking for, let's say, a boost from the leader. Well, they're getting the opposite. Liz Truss is at minus 59, and what we're seeing actually is the Conservative Party are at minus 50. So Liz Truss is almost 10 points worse off than her own party. So the party brand is being damaged by the Prime Minister already at this very early stage.
And in terms of those policies and the sort of shift in messaging we've seen today, James cleverly now pitching this as some bad tasting medicine that we all have to take but we'll feel better in the long term. Is it possible, I mean, one of the conversations I've had a lot in Birmingham this week is this turnaroundable? If she turns out to be proved right, does she get rewarded for that? Or is the damage done right now so bad? Is it like Black Wednesday in the ERM in the early 1990s, where the Tories were so damaged that actually they did then get the economy booming by 1997, and the country rewarded them by handing the keys to number 10 to Tony Blair?
Quite, yes. Well, of course, we can never say never in British politics, particularly now in this sort of contemporary age of giant swings and huge transformations. Look, the day after the December 19 election, how long did we think it would be for the Labour Party to turn around their electoral fortunes and get back into government? Nobody would have said one electoral term. So we can never really say anything with any great certainty now. However, if we look across the board, it's not just that the public have a problem with Liz Truss or the Conservative Party, it's that they've lost some of their key metrics, their key reasons, their raison d'etre, if you like. The public simply now do not trust the Conservatives to run the economy. And if the Conservative Party can't convince the public that they are the safety option, that they are the ones who will look after the finances of their family, of the country, of the workers, well, then the Conservative Party really don't have much going for them at all. And we're seeing the worst ever recorded public confidence in the government in things like inflation, in the economy, in tax, in the NHS. It really is a huge problem, a huge pit that the Conservative Party are in right now in the court's public opinion. And it's going to be extremely difficult for them to turn it around.
Well, we'll find out just after 11 o'clock. Liz Truss's attempt, her plan to try and turn it around. And we'll find out. No doubt you'll be polling it pretty soon after to see if it works. Patrick English, really good to speak to you. Patrick English there from YouGov with that new polling, which shows that Liz Truss is already less popular than Boris Johnson and Jeremy Corbyn at their worst moments. Her net favourability minus 59 among all adults in Britain, minus 30 among those who voted Conservative in 2019.